Hey, what's up guys? Kevin here to bring you a brand new video where today I wanted to talk about a particular movie that I just recently watched. I haven't been doing movie reviews or breakdowns or analysis on here lately. I've mostly been doing movie reviews on my Instagram page, Gimon Reviews, all one word. Go check it out if you haven't already. Today, I wanted to talk about a specific movie that I felt like had a lot to say. It's a movie that kind of likens back to similar movies that I've done videos on. And that movie was I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This movie is really complex and has a lot going on, both plot wise and as far as like underlying themes. But there's a lot going on in this movie, and I honestly didn't expect it, even though I had heard that it kind of turns into something different, based on what a friend told me. But even so, it was still not what I expected. um, so if you have not seen this film already, please go see it, and then come watch this video. So yeah, this film was a lot different than I thought. When I started watching it, I thought it was gonna be like a horror movie, honestly. Like, maybe not like a horror movie, but like a thriller. Like, this whole premise of this girl going with her boyfriend to this house just seemed like it was setting up for something like scary or terrifying involving the parents and the boyfriend, but it wasn't. Like, I'll just like go through the different like parts of this movie to start off. So like at the beginning, they're kind of like going to the parents' house, and from the sounds of it, this girl, um, based on what she's saying in her mind at least, it sounds like she's having a lot of doubts, and seems like their relationship is kind of on the rocks as far as like how she feels about it. And she feels like she kind of wants to end things, but is kind of having a hard time with finding the time to end things, and is kind of just going to this parents' house just out of like, just going along with the relationship and being like, oh, whatever, I'll do it for now, and then I'll break things off after, she says. Um, so right out of the gate, like things don't seem right between them, and she goes to see his parents. They just seem rather awkward and nervous, but not necessarily like bad or ill-intentioned. They just seem weird, like strange parents, but something about them gives off like this eerie vibe that make you think they're gonna like do something like try to kill her or whatnot. But no, they don't try to kill her. It's just like it's just them trying to do what they can to impress her, and sometimes it looks a little strange. Um, and then about an hour in, some weird stuff starts to happen, and then you realize that this film is not what you think it is. So people, the parents start aging randomly. Um, the girl starts seeing the parents like randomly being older. Like at one point, one of them was like pretty much dying. Um, that's how bad that was. And like one of them at one point, like the father seemed like he had like dementia or Alzheimer's, and he was trying to like the kid, or the boyfriend Jake was trying to like care for them, and it was almost like she was seeing his life with his parents throughout like into the future and throughout her whole life. And I guess like maybe it was like a glimpse of what it would be like in the future. At least that's what I thought in that moment. But then they leave the house, so I'm like, okay, nobody died, nobody got killed. But then I realized like, okay, so nobody died, and now they're just like discussing things about like themes of life and death and relationships and women and blah 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 blah. Like this, and a lot of it is just like this girl thinking all this stuff and feeling all this stuff. Um, and then it just goes off into this totally different like story involving them getting to this school, and and then you realize what was really going on, and that's that this whole trip that they took was a memory or a vision or some sort of dream that the character Jake was having involving his girlfriend. I think it is like a memory because they really did like go to see her parents like that, but I think some of it was distorted, like with how the parents were randomly aging. Like that's obviously not like real, but like he was like imagining like what that was like. Because now throughout you see, I didn't think much of it at first, but throughout you see this janitor guy, and you're like, oh, why do they keep showing him? But then like after a while you realize that that's Jake, the old janitor guy, who's like super old and just like mops the floors, and you realize it's him. You're like, oh, that's him. There's a couple cues that help you pick up on this, such as the fact that he wears an R on his shirt, and when the girl went down in the basement to do some laundry, she found a bunch of shirts that had the letter R on it, and then he goes to give her some slippers, which Jake had also given her earlier in the movie, and they were the same exact slippers that he had given her early on. And so you can kind of make that inference. And then basically the movie goes on, and he remembers like a speech that he gave when he gets this like award, and he like thanks his wife, who is the girl that he was still with even after that time. So they actually never broke up. He stayed with her for the rest of his life, and that's where it gets interesting when you try to like think about all of it. Um, is that she had said that she wanted to end things, but she never did. And there's multiple ways that you can interpret why the relationship never ended. This is what I love about the movie so much. One way is that she just never said how she felt, and she just became complacent and just stayed with him, and never had never dared to say like how she felt, or never felt like she had the time to say how she felt. And this is kind of like a theme that you can like kind of identify with, in how like women will often feel like they're like bound to this relationship, and they feel like there's no way out of it. They feel like they have a hard time like getting out of relationships like this. There's definitely like more independency these days, but especially like a while ago though, it used to be really bad to where like women would be easily coerced into relationships with men, and that and they would be in relationships that they didn't want, and they felt like they couldn't get out of them. It's a very real thing that was happening a lot back then, and still happens somewhat today. Um, and now the other perspective that you can look at is that she actually never wanted to end things, and those thoughts that she was having about ending the relationship were actually not real at all. They were just Jake's fear of what she thought. He feared that she felt like she wanted to end things. He feared that like he wasn't good enough. He feared that like his insecurities made him awful. He feared that he was like a really awkward person and just couldn't get along, and there was something wrong about him. Like everything that she was saying in her mind could be identified as like all of his fears that he had about himself, because ultimately he was somewhat of an awkward guy. Like um when they got into a relationship, like she was the one who approached him, and he was the one who was like kind of like shy at first and didn't like initially try to get into a relationship with her. Like she kind of like made the first move. Um, so like and like as a physicist, he seemed like someone who was like really smart and knew a lot of stuff, but at the same time struggled in his relationships with women. Um, and that's something that you can definitely see in his character. A good cue to actually pick up on as far as like knowing that maybe this is stuff that he's just making up as far as what she's thinking is that at one point when they're driving, actually, he she's like thinking some stuff and she thinks the words, "I'm thinking of ending things." And then he says, "What? What was that?" Like as if he almost heard her. So with that you could kind of interpret like, hey, maybe he actually like kind of feels like she's thinking this stuff and like almost like knows she's thinking this stuff because he's imagining it in his memory. So you could kind of like interpret it like he already knows like that she might be thinking these awful things about him and about ending the relationship. So it's like two angles of looking at it. I think it's probably the latter. It's probably that he was just imagining that she was thinking that when she wasn't. Because in the end, they are, you know, husband and wife for like forever. And he like when he was making that acceptance speech, you can tell that like he was happy. He felt like he really like found a great like life with this girl, which is great for him. Um, but aside from that, there's like also just a lot of other great themes that you can look at here, um, like about death and like how we as humans like approach life based on death. One of the things that I remember was that like they were talking about how like animals are the ones who like live in the moment and they don't think about the future, they just live in the present, whereas we humans are the only ones who like know about death and like live based on death basically. Which I just thought was interesting to think about. There's definitely many other things that I could like mention as far as like themes that you can take away from this, and I'll have to watch this again just to kind of get some more of those going for me and just to remember them. But those are the ones that really like stuck with me since I watched this yesterday. And like there's like even moments like towards the very end that you can like take away as like symbolizing like what this film's plot was. At the very last shot of the movie, we see outside the car that was parked, that they had driven when they had stopped at the high school to throw away their dairy treats that they didn't want to eat. Um, that car was covered in snow. So with that, you could almost interpret that, you know, they never left the school. Basically, essentially saying, like, the relationship always stayed there. They never went home. She wanted to go home. She wanted to return so she could work her shift the next day. But that never happened. Of course, they didn't stay at the high school for their whole lives, but it's I think the movie's trying to say that like their relationship just continued on. It never like ended like she thought it would. So I think that that final shot of the car covered in snow is some real good symbolism right there. That's what I love about it is that like you can kind of like watch this and be like, yeah, I can really like think about this for a while. Um, and like the cool thing is that like I finished watching this movie and I was about to go to bed. It was towards the end of the night when I was finishing it, and like I go in the bathroom to like brush my teeth and get ready, and I look in the mirror and I was like, wait a minute, that was just what he thought she was thinking. Like, it's so like, it's so freaking cool when you have that like revelation, like after you watch the movie, not even during. Like after I had finished the movie, I was like, wait a minute, was she not actually thinking that the whole time? And I'm just like, oh. But yeah, I absolutely love this film, even though it was not what I expected. This is the first time in a while that I feel like really like thrilled by something so like thought provoking and like thematic and complex as this. Like since movies like Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire, like movies like that and this one I just absolutely adore. And this was just a real treat to watch. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like if you have, and make sure to subscribe to see more content. And I'll see you guys in the next video.